Welcome to the People of DearDoc, an DearDoc Podcast, the show that brings you closer to the heart of our company. I'm your host, Billy, and each week we'll take you on a journey behind the scenes to meet the incredible individuals who drive our company's success. From marketing to product development, HR to sales, we're here to showcase the real people, the real stories, and the real passion that makes our workplace extraordinary. Whether you're a new hire that's eager to learn about our culture, or a seasoned pro looking to connect with colleagues that you've never met, this podcast is your invitation to join us in celebrating the unique talent that makes us who we are. So grab your favorite headphones, settle in, and get ready to meet the faces behind the roles as we dive deep into the heart of our company. It's time to discover the stories that inspire us, the ideas that drive us in the incredible journey that is DearDoc. Welcome to the People of DearDoc, an DearDoc Podcast. Let's get started. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the People of DearDoc. Joining us now is Erik Seigle, one of our sales managers who has a really cool story. Erik, how are we doing tonight?
I'm doing good, Billy. It's feeling good, feeling like $1 million. How are you doing?
Doing good, man. Before we get into like this crazy ride I feel like you've had in the past little over a year, what were you doing before working, here at DearDoc?
Yeah. Before I got to DearDoc, I was mostly serving tables. I've been in New York for like 6 years now. The first 3 years I was serving tables just to pay the bills. And then right before DearDoc, I sold pest control door to door for like 3.5 months.
Cool. Where did you move from?
North Carolina.
North Carolina?
Yeah.
All right. So before this, you were serving tables after you got to New York first, right?
Yeah. So I moved from North Carolina. Didn't have any job lined up or anything like that. My brother asked me to come room with him, and had nothing else I was doing. So I said I took him up on it. I flew to the city with $1,000. I thought it was a lot. I thought it would last me for a while. It did not. It went by quick because New York is expensive. And so my first day I was here, or not my first day, because I enjoyed the city for a few days, and then that first Monday I was here, I just took the train down to Canal Street, and because there's this restaurant I was interested in working at over there, and I just handed out my resumes. I just walked in and handed out my resumes, and actually the first one I went to hired me.
No way.
Yeah, but I continued to hand out my resume for the rest of the day, and I walked from Canal all the way to the Upper West Side.
What?
Yeah, dude, it was at the time I didn't realize how out of pocket it was, but looking back, it was ridiculous. Yeah, so I started off as my first 3 years I was here through the pandemic, I was serving tables. Yeah.
Sick. So that's kind of like some kind of sales experience too. But before that, you were doing pest control, you said?
After serving tables, I did pest control.
Okay.
COVID happened, all the restaurants shut down, so I lost my job.
Got it.
And so I knew I needed to really change some things about my future. I felt like it looked pretty bleak, at least in my opinion. And so I took a summer sales job selling pest control door to door in Tulsa, Oklahoma, to boost my resume and overcome some personal insecurities I had.
Yeah, and was that like your first experience going into sales that way?
Yeah, that was my first one.
And what was that like? 'Cause that's door to door. That's like in person sales.
Yeah, it was nuts. I am very thankful for it. But yeah, so I flew out to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I was commission only.
Okay.
So I knew I would basically be volunteering unless I made some things happen. We called it volunteering for Aptive. So if you went out and knocked for a day and you didn't make any sales, then you were volunteering for Aptive, was the company name.
Right.
And I knocked a little over 14,000 doors and sold like 200,000 worth of pest control.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
fall on like other people's numbers.
So I was in the top 1% out of nationwide. I was in the top 1%.
And this is in how much time? 3 months?
3 months in like a week and a half.
Wow.
And yeah, so I would knocked a little over 14,000 doors. The average rep was knocking like 9,000. So
that's
yeah.
And I think there's like a funny story too, like the first door you knocked, right?
Yeah, the first door I knocked, I sold. I was nervous as can be. You know when you get nervous and like you choke over a word?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I was pitching this guy. First door I knocked, he can't like answered his door right away, and I was just reading the script that I had memorized, and I was choking over my words because I was so nervous.
Yeah.
But I ended up selling him. This was like 10 in the morning, and then I didn't make a sale the rest of the day.
Yeah, I'm sure that probably led you to it made it easier going forward, like in sales, right? Like that, like one amazing day, it's like like a harder rest of the day.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I finished that day, and I got in my car, and I was like, why the heck am I doing this? I started
Right.
questioning everything. But I put myself in a situation where I didn't have a plan B. Like I was paying for rent in New York, and then I took this summer sales job in Tulsa. And if I didn't sell a certain amount, then I would also have to pay rent there, which I knew I wouldn't be able to afford. So like it was failure was not an option, sort of thing.
Yeah, it was like sink or swim. You got to make it
Exactly.
happen.
Exactly.
So then you finished up, in the top 1% there, like crushed it while you're doing door to door. What brought you back to New York, like not staying in that? And then like how'd you end up coming to work at DearDoc?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I did before that summer. Before I left Tulsa, I signed a contract to come back out the next summer.
Okay.
Um, and I moved back to the city. I was just applying to different roles, interviewed with DearDoc, obviously. Uh, and yeah, it took me a long time to come to the decision. I was debating on whether or not I want to go back because I had done so well. Um, but ultimately I wanted to be here in New York.
Right.
I didn't want to live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So, yeah, I ended up taking the DearDoc offer.
Cool. And how'd you find tech? Like how'd you find DearDoc?
Yeah. So I had no idea what to apply to when I first started. I had never heard the term SDR. I knew I wanted to get into sales, but I didn't know where to start. So I just reached out to a friend who was in the space, tech sales,
Okay.
and they just told me to look for the term SDR, and I just started launching out resumes. I applied to probably 50 plus places.
Yeah, I think I have like a similar thing. I didn't know like anything about tech sales, something like that. Someone mentioned like SDR to me and just blasted like SDR thing. I started looking into like this is such a cool space to actually get into.
Yeah.
Right, because it's like a low barrier entry almost in a way of like maybe not the most experience, but like the upside's huge. Just how sales is. So what was it like coming in like your first day at DearDoc? Like what was it like? You're an SDR, you came on in this, right?
Yeah. So I started as an SDR. My first day I was nervous as heck. It felt super awkward. I didn't know anyone. But that first week it was in class in training, and you just really quickly got super close to everyone in your training class.
Yep.
Um, it was I personally really liked the training. It was really engaging. There was a lot of questions asked, so I was able to give my thoughts on things.
Right.
Um, so I personally really liked it.
And then like transitioning from door to door sales, like in person, what was like doing that going to like on the phone making cold calls?
Um, it was a honestly it was an easy transition. It was like knocking on someone's personal property
Right.
unannounced. It felt very invasive. In this, I have miles and miles between me and the prospect.
Yeah.
So it was significantly easier to deal with the rejection because I had been rejected in person. Over the phone was nothing. I had my people around me who I could bounce positivity off of if I did get rejected. So it was an easy transition. And one thing that really, really helped me is I just gave into the process, like just big trusted the process. I knew there were a ton of people who had come before me and are now in their, the seat that they're in using the exact same process I would be using.
Right.
So I didn't question anything. I just executed it to a T, and things worked out.
Yeah, it's funny. Like if I look back to like my first like month here, first day, first week, and even to now, like one repetitive thing you always hear is like trust the process, read the script, like everything is laid out a certain way because it actually does work. So
Totally.
so how long
Totally.
were you an SDR for?
I was an SDR for 3 months,
3 months,
2 months in training, 1 month out, and then I was promoted to AE.
which is nuts because like I don't know if the times were the same, but like it's roughly around 6 months, maybe a little more than that to like transition into AE, and that's where you end up going next. So like describe like that kind of transition. Like how did you go in 2 months when maybe it took people longer or?
Hmm. So at the time, our process was quicker. It was you had the opportunity to get promoted in 3 months. And I had just finished that summer selling pest control. I sold a lot, uh, and so I knew I could close.
Mhm.
So I wanted to just get to AE as quickly as possible. Um, so that 3 months, I was just locked in. Like we're given an hour lunch. And I was the same way in Tulsa that summer. Like I would go to get my food, I would eat, and then as soon as I finished eating, I would be back on the phones, which maybe took 20 minutes tops.
Right.
So instead of taking an hour break, I would take 20-minute break and just be right back on the phones. If people were chatting around me, like we talk about LFF being laser effing focused.
Mhm.
And I was just that to a T. Like I had my priority was getting to AE. And so I did everything I needed to make that happen as quickly as possible.
Yeah, just being like super like one set, like this is my mission, I have to get this done. So like that set you apart 'cause, like you said, taking shorter breaks. I'm sure there's times like you skipped out on like maybe doing some things outside of work to like stay a little later or get like another call in or one more meeting booked. So then when you became AE, like what was the transition like? How was it like going from like maybe just cold calling to actually like doing demos and stuff like that?
It was a scary transition at first. Uh, but again, I just trusted the process. Like I gave in completely to it. And I think when you trust the process like that, it takes a lot of the weight off of you. You know what I mean? Like you just have to go in and execute this playbook that has already been provided, and so it takes the stress and like maybe the anxiety off of it. But that first pitch, super nervous.
Hmm.
I actually closed my first pitch ever. Um, so I closed my first door. I knocked my first pitch I had, and I was like, okay, maybe the sales thing is for me.
And the first job that you actually not like dropped your resume off at too.
True,
Yeah,
true.
this is like a reoccurring theme for you.
It's a reoccurring theme. I didn't think about that. That's
Like
funny,
I can't wait for the next like big thing you do for the first time. And you're gonna get that whatever that is done. You're gonna accomplish on the first time.
right? Knock on wood, but
Yeah, it's
apparently
gonna
it's going to go well.
happen. So yeah, describe AE life now. What was that like?
AE life was for me that's like what I loved the most.
Okay.
Um, was just pitching the doctors. You know what I mean? Um, I knew I could close, so I wanted to be on the phones selling. There's a lot more nuanced parts that go into closing. It's an hour and a half pitch as opposed to maybe like a 5-minute cold call.
Right.
Um, but A life for me was the same as SDR in a lot of ways. Like I was just putting in a ton of time.
Mhm.
So AE training, I finished at 300% of my goal. My goal was like 30,000. I did 93,000.
Wow.
Um, and the way I did it was the exact same way I did the SDR thing. Just like I would keep my calendar open until 9 p.m. so I could get an 8 p.m. pitch.
Mhm.
So I was often here like 8 p.m., 8:30, still on the phones. Um, the company, we had a lot of happy hours. The team would go to the happy hour, and you can ask any of them. Like I would still be here on the phones closing. Like I I wanted to be a top performer. I wanted to be the best, and
Right.
um, for me, that was just like putting in the time.
Yeah, it seems like you have like a recurring theme also, not only just like doing the first thing, getting it done, but like of really like exceeding your goals, exceeding like performance metrics, like what you're supposed to be hitting, you're supposed to be doing, like what it's at door to door, at SDR even, and now like account executive. When you said like in door to door, like it was like sink or swim, like you had to make this happen, otherwise you're paying for an apartment here and paying for something there. What was like the motivating factor when you were an AE?
That's another good question. What was my motivating factor? I also just wanted to prove to myself I could be successful at something. I could do it well.
Hmm.
I sucked in school. I was horrible in school. Like consistent C, D student.
Hmm.
Had to stay an extra semester. Was denied out of high school to every place I applied. Had to go to community college. Um, And so I just wanted to prove myself I could succeed at something I put my mind to. And then I'm also super competitive, so I like to see my name at the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah.
And
You have that dog in you.
yeah, once you get that little bit of success, it's like, for me, I just want more of it, you know?
Yeah. It's funny that they say people do things out of like inspiration or desperation, and you can kind of see like the progression like in your journey from like maybe first it was like a desperation kind of moment almost to now like account
Totally.
executive it was like this is inspiration. Now like I'm inspired to keep on exceeding my goals and prove to myself that I could actually do this. Not like you need to do it almost, you know? Change
Totally.
your thinking. I'm sure you're probably more fluid in that moment too. Like mine was more clear and like yours more focused on like what you actually get done.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think that's another thing before, like, if you want to do well in a job like this, like, get your priorities straight. There's no reason you can't succeed. The only reason is internal. It's you, you know, there's no external factors to blame. If you want it bad enough, you can make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It goes back to the theme. You ran a meeting on Monday here, like at the company, and it was like, no excuses. Like that's the reason why people don't get stuff done. They don't do things. So they put an excuse behind them. But needless to say, there should be no excuse to why you aren't crushing your goals and why you aren't making things happen. So you went from account executive and then to sales manager.
Mm-hmm.
How did that come about?
It was super out of the blue. Um, I was 8 months into being an account executive, and uh, for me, another thing that I love is just feeling like I'm growing personally, gaining like new human skills.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of things about the sales manager role that I knew would challenge me, uh, and like help me overcome some of my own insecurities. Like, public speaking was a big issue.
Mm.
Still working on it, but I knew I would be in a role where I had to public speak multiple times every
Right.
week. So yeah, I hadn't planned on it, but there was an internal job posting for it, and my manager came to me and talked to me about it, and helped me understand that I didn't think it was possible I would get the role, because I was only 8 months into being an AE, 12 months at the company,
Right.
or no, 13, 14 months at the company.
Mm-hmm.
But I applied to it and got the role.
That's awesome. Did you know you wanted to become a manager? Or was that kind of like when that job posting came up? It was like, all right, I would like to do this.
I I would say it was more like in the moment. I really was not thinking about it. The job was posted, and I didn't apply at first because I was like, there's no way I'm going to get that.
Mm-hmm.
But then the more I thought about it, the more it aligned with things I wanted to do.
Right.
And just like, I'm always looking for that next level, the next thing.
Yeah.
And I don't like to be stagnant in one thing for too long. And so that sales manager role seemed, I also just get a lot more joy from like helping others hit their goal. Like, selling was fun for me. But there's something more rewarding about teaching someone and then seeing them succeed. So the role just aligned with me in a lot of ways.
It's like, what's next for Erik Seigle? What's the next
Question, dude? For now, I'm only 4 months into being an SDR manager. I still got some things to achieve here.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next thing will hopefully be an account executive manager, and we'll AE manager next, and then we'll see what comes after.
Nice. I'm excited for that. I think it's cool that you got to come on here and like talk to everybody, like whether it's people at the company learning more about your story or somebody who like maybe isn't here already and they're thinking about joining. So my first interaction like with anybody here like in person at DearDoc was with you, like coming in my first morning for training.
Yeah.
And you were just like super chill. I was super nervous coming in. I was like, it's scary. It's a new place to be in. And you just like create like a warm environment and like was just down to earth and like chill. And I learned more about your story, like how, because your first day becoming a manager was my first day as an SDR.
Mm-hmm.
And it just blew my mind, like knowing you here like maybe a little over a year and you went from SDR, AE to manager. And it was like, wow, this is possible to do stuff at like a startup like this or a company like DearDoc, because coming here is like, I'm joining as an SDR and like, I don't really know what else you could do. So
Right.
you show the possibilities of like hard work, what this company offers for its people and the opportunities you have to grow. Like there's so much room for growth here. I'm sure you could definitely attest to that. You witnessed it yourself.
Oh yeah. And I think that's the case for most I mean, yes, there's a ton of, I think this place is whatever you make it, and that's life in general. It's what you make of it. If you come in and you care and you work hard, then good things will happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So you had a great story. I'm happy you shared that. Let's talk a little bit about like what do you do outside of work? What are your hobbies, interests?
Yeah. So I love to just explore the city through food mostly and bars.
No more job application walks.
No more of those, thankfully. But yeah, love to go to new restaurants. I'm a big fantasy guy, like reading fantasy books, Lord of the Rings, Dune. Aragon is a new one I started.
Mm,
Um, Harry Potter, I'm obsessed with, and then I'm also a gamer. I love to game. Rocket League.
Rocket
Uh,
League.
what's my new big one?
Go for
Rocket
it.
League, Apex. Uh, oh, F1. F1's a great one. I'm trying to get you onto F1.
I will. I will. That and Dune. I promise you, I'll get it done.
Gotta read Dune. It's right
Dune,
up your alley.
yeah, Dune's coming. F1's probably more likely to come sooner, but eventually they're gonna come. And then, dude, I can't believe they just on the table. Lions.
The Detroit. Oh yeah, I don't know how I forgot that. Yeah, massive Detroit Lions fan. Football is uh, a second to DearDoc in terms of my life. Love football. Big Detroit Lions fan. I'm also big into scouting players. So
Hmm.
my brothers and I will make big board rankings for every draft class, like positional rankings. We'll rank players.
Sick.
Um, so football, reading, volleyball is a new thing I picked up recently.
Mm.
Uh,
The
yeah.
league you play in seems fun.
What's up?
So the league you play in seems fun.
Yep. Every Saturday we go to this place in Williamsburg called Tailgate Sports Bar, and they got a beach volleyball court out there, and we get a crew, and we join this Volo Sports League, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Awesome. We're gonna like cut the podcast here like a little earlier and skip like the last three questions kind of part. But before we go, give advice to somebody coming in as like a brand new SDR, whether joining your team, the other teams that are here, to help them crush their goals.
Yes. So a few things I'll say is one, just be consistent in your effort. Um, like if you come in and you book 10 meetings one day and then you decide, okay, maybe I can take the next day off, and you book two, then all of a sudden that 10 isn't so great. That's something I learned on the doors. Be consistent in your effort, give it 100% every day. Also trust the process. That's one thing that helped me immensely, is I just gave 100% to the process. I did not question it ever. And that freed me in a lot of ways.
Mm.
And then be a sponge, like ask people questions. Every account executive here is in their seat because they succeeded using the process SDRs use. Pick their brains, pick your co SDRs brains, your manager, like just be a sponge and ask a ton of questions.
Love it, dude. Erik, thanks for coming on. This one was awesome.
Dude, appreciate you, Billy. You're the man.
Absolutely, sweet.
All right, man.